Good morning, Redemption Church. Pastor Matt here. I think we are actually live this time. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, our plans are thwarted, and we have to just keep figuring out what's going on. So even though we go live every single week, it seems something new seems to pop up every time. So I'm glad to be live with you. I'm glad that you're here. I hope that your week yesterday started off in great fashion. I hope it's a great week ahead. I know for a lot of us, last week was a short week. It was crazy. It was busy. And this week we feel like we're playing catch up. But today on our Tuesday Devo, I want to talk about through our message that Pastor Brandon preached on this past Sunday. We're in our canceled series. And this past week, the message was very important because the message dealt with, well, what if we do mess up? What if there is a problem? What should the consequence? What should the outcome be? And so we talked through a couple of different things, and I think these are very important for us. And we're in the book of John, chapter 18 and then chapter 21. But basically, we talked about the difference between retaliation and restoration. So when we read in chapter 18 of John the story of Peter's betrayal of Jesus, many of you might be familiar with that, but Jesus is taken to the high priest, and then Simon is there, and he's asked a few times if he knows Jesus, if he's one of his disciples, and he's denying it. He's denying it. For 3 times. In verse 25 of chapter 18, now Simon Peter was warming himself, and they said, "You aren't one of his disciples too?" And he denied it and said, "I am not." One of the high priest's servants, a relative of the man whose ear Peter cut off. Remember when they came to arrest Jesus, Peter drew his sword and cut his ear off. He said, "Didn't I see you with him?" This guy is remembering Peter's face. He says, "I saw you." But Peter denied it again, and immediately a rooster crowed. So Jesus had said he would deny him before the rooster crowed. So Peter has denied Jesus. And what we see, though, in chapter 21 is this difference between restoration and retaliation. So often in today's cancel culture, the attitude is, if you hurt me, I want to hurt you back. In fact, I'd like to even hurt you worse than you hurt me, right? It's not even an eye for an eye. It's an eye for an eye and 2 arms and both legs, right? We want to hurt the person who we feel has hurt or wronged us. That's retaliatory. So that would be an example of punishment, where you did X and you got a punishment. Now, we all know that as sinners who are born into sin, that our punishment that we are really born into as sinners is death. That's what that actually should be. But in God's kindness, he sent his son Jesus to take that punishment, the brutality of the cross, for us. So there's punishment is a retaliation, whereas discipline is restoration. And that's what we see in how Jesus responds to Peter. In chapter 21, this is after Jesus has risen and he appears again to the disciples. And it's a very similar story. When Jesus appears to them, he goes back to Peter and he asks him again 3 times. And he says, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter responded, "feed my lambs." A second time he asked, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter responded, "you know I love you. Then shepherd my sheep." He asked a third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And Peter was grieved that he asked him a third time, "Do you love me?" And he said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." So how does Jesus respond to Peter when he reappears to the disciples? He doesn't come back. He doesn't yell at Peter. He doesn't scream at Peter. He doesn't say, "I knew you would deny me. I told you you would deny me." He offers this chance for Peter again 3 times to say, "Yes, I love you and I follow you." That is a restoration. He's restoring Peter instead of retaliating against him. I think something that's really important, and I know we talked about it quickly on Sunday in this message, we always wrap everything up with the so what, right? We always say, so what? And that's essentially, well, what are we supposed to do with this information? Okay, so Peter messed up. Jesus offered him grace. He offered him mercy and kindness and offered restoration, not retaliation. So he modeled for us what we should do. But so what? How does that apply to us? So in our relationships, this is key. The first thing is we have to seek restoration, not retaliation. The human side of us wants to retaliate. We want to yell back. We want to fight back. We want to scream louder, say something even meaner, respond in a way that really makes that person feel bad. And maybe for a split second, you're like, okay, I really stuck it to them, right? But the truth is, that's not, as disciples of Christ, what we're called to do. That's not at all what we're called to do. We're called to be restorative in how we approach those that have wronged us or those that have perceived wrongs against us. So we have to, one, seek restoration, not retaliation. This is important. The second thing is progress, not payback. So then we have to think, okay, well, how do we move this relation forward in light of the restoration? How do we move this forward, this relationship steps ahead and keep it moving in the right direction? Not payback. Again, the world says pay them back, right? The world says they wronged you, wrong them even worse, scream at them even louder, be even meaner, even uglier than they could ever dream. But Jesus says, no, progress. We want to move relationships forward because our greatest calling as disciples of Jesus is to make his name famous, is to show the kindness and the grace that was offered here to us to others. Recognizing that we can do nothing in and of ourselves without the grace and kindness of Jesus, without his restoration, we cannot be made whole and actually be free of our bondage to sin, and then applying that in our relationships to others. So, restoration, not retaliation. Progress, not payback. And then last, this is really important, we have to seek grace, not grudges. And that's so critical because oftentimes that grudge allows us to hold on to hate in our heart. It allows us to hold on and really feel like we're doing something because we want this person to know how much we don't like them. We want that person to understand how deeply they've wronged us. None of that is biblical. That's not at all what Christ says to do. Brandon said something great in his message on Sunday. He said, people compare grudges to someone who drinks poison, like me drinking poison, intending to hurt someone else. Holding a grudge in your heart is definitely not what Christ has called us to do. You see, Jesus responded to Peter in grace. He extended grace to us at the cross that we can never repay. And we're simply called to extend grace to others. Holding on to a wrong or a perceived wrong or relationship that you feel you're the person who's right and they're wrong, that does nothing for you. Your relationship with Jesus can never grow as long as you are holding on to grudges in your heart. We have to let it go. We have to seek restoration, not retaliation. We can't let relationships in our life be narrated by the ugliness of the world. We have to show others the love of Jesus that we have been shown on the cross. So I want to encourage you this week. Maybe the Lord is nudging your heart in a relationship that you need to make right. Maybe it's just a general approach that the Lord is saying, hey, how you approach when others wrong you, we need to look at that. We need to do an inward self-examination and say, am I responding to others in the way that Jesus would want me to? So maybe it's something to that effect. Either way, I encourage you this week, let's be grace givers. Let's let the world know that the people of redemption love others so much that we are willing to seek restoration, not retaliation. We don't want to get them back. We want to show them the love of Jesus. I hope you have a great week. I am excited to see you all again on Sunday to worship with you live and in person. If you can make it live and in person or online, we certainly have a great online team. Either way, have a great week. Love you guys. We'll see you soon.